everyone. Welcome back to Wisdom from the Field. I'm sitting here today with Rabbi Yitzi Steiner from Chabad of University of Minnesota.
Shalom
Welcome, Yitzi.
Aleichem. How are you?
Aleichem shalom. Thank you for agreeing to come on.
Absolutely. Excited.
Yeah, same. So, what is it like to be a shlichus in University of Minnesota?
What is it like to be on shlichus at the University of Minnesota? Well, the first thing that I think most comes to mind for most people when they think of Minnesota is cold. Actually, it depends on what kufa. Recently, we've been in the news for a lot of other things. But the University of Minnesota, or Minnesota in general, people think of cold. But it's anything but that. Yeah, sometimes it gets a little bit cold outside. But I think in everybody's people that are interested and dedicated to Yiddishkeit, it's warm. And I think that's the mila that we have of being on shlichus is to warm everybody up. And I think that's our job, and that's what I try to do every single day. But in terms of practically speaking, University of Minnesota is a large state school. Percentage-wise of Yidden is not that high. It's like maybe 50,000 students on the campus, and maybe 1,000 Jews. So it's the percentage-wise is small, but it's strong. Students are interested, involved, engaged. There's all different types. In terms of traditional Jews, not really that many traditional Jews. I don't really have like a frum crowd. So therefore, or even traditional. So things like minyanim are difficult. Not something that I put a lot of focus on because that's not necessarily what my crowd is looking for. But yeah, that's pretty much the in very general of what Yiddishkeit or Jewish life at the University of Minnesota is like.
Right. Is are students generally like looking for some Jewish environment or engagement, or is it more
It's a good
you?
question. I was recently thinking about why Chabad on campus in general works, why I think it's successful. Is because I wouldn't say that people are looking for Yiddishkeit. I mean, I don't want to say that's not true anywhere, but like fewer and far between. Definitely not in my circles. People aren't necessarily looking for Yiddishkeit, but what people are looking for is they're looking for connection, especially a college student. And think about it for a second. They're leaving their home for the first time at 18 years old, and they're exploring the world for the first time. And most people, can't say everyone, but most people don't necessarily have a mentor. They're looking for something. They're looking for an adult besides their parents to talk to. And I'm not saying that's a klal for everyone, but I think it's a klal for a lot of people. So when you're able to show up and you're there and show them that you care about them and their life, I think it's very, very impactful and it's very important. Yes, there's a lot of hoops that as a shliach, you have to jump through. Number one, the average kid, who's never interacted with Chabad before, or a religious person before, they have their preconceived ideas of what a religious Jew is. And therefore there's a big barrier for them to get to walk into the door. But I think once they do walk into the door, and you actually genuinely show them that you care, I don't want to say it's a slam dunk, but it works. Let me put it that way. Yes, it's harder when you have larger crowds, and if you have 80 to 100 plus, it's hard to have a conversation with each one personally and show them that you care. And that's, generally what I try to do. Let's say on a Friday night dinner, I try to go over to each student, at least ask them their name, where they're from, try to remember it. And then try to go back to that especially when they come in, the next time and say, hopefully I remember their name or where they're from. But again, the idea is to show them that you genuinely care And I think that's why Chabad on campus works. And I think that's why it's pretty much a successful organization. I think also that's what makes it different than any other shlichus, I guess, demographic. When we're talking C-Teen or when you're talking YJP, you're talking community or things like that. Generally, I do think that people are looking for rabbis, but I think specifically on campus when they're leaving home for the first time, I think it works for a lot. So to
Wow,
answer your
beautiful.
question, I don't think people are looking for Yiddishkeit. I think people are looking for connection.
Right, right. What could you say a little more? You said about getting through those hoops. Like, what does the taka take to get through those hoops?
Yeah. I see the main barrier is their understanding of, or I should say their lack of understanding of what religious Judaism is, what Chabad is, the fact that they have this understanding, whether it's from their parents or whether it's just in general from camps and from synagogues and pulpits. I don't think it's nearly as strong today as it was 10, 15 years ago. When I say strong, meaning the hesitation. Back in the day, rabbis from pulpits would talk about, Chabad and in a negative way. And I haven't seen anything recently, at least in a public format of, how what Chabad is or what religious people are. In the media, especially what's going on today, just the way people are following what's going on in Israel. To many people, the Haredim are worse, if not equal as Hamas. So it's like they
Right,
see,
there's a lot of stigmas to get past.
yeah, yeah. I would say that's the main hurdle. I'm not religious enough. I don't know enough. I'm going to feel uncomfortable. I'm going to shake the rabbi's hand. That right away also like puts such a hard barrier their first time they come. So if they come with their friends, warn them beforehand. Girls, don't put your hand out to the rabbi. Don't, that. But all of those things it makes them so much more uncomfortable that they have to perform, and what's the prayers going to be like, and so on. I think that's the hardest, but again, I think that as time goes on, and their parents were involved with Chabad, or they have cousins that were involved with Chabad, and things like that, it is becoming a lot easier. There's but at the end of the day, the stigma is still there, especially for first-time parents, and they don't necessarily have any family members that ever been to Chabad. It's the same thing. And by the way, this is also very true when it comes to the fundraising world, which we'll talk about later. But it's that same thing, trying to get new donors into the door with
Hmm,
that stigma. Yeah.
interesting. On a more personal note, what would you say is your most or more enjoyable elements of your shlichus versus the lesser
Great question. Love that, and
ones?
I think a lot about that, and I think to a certain degree that's how I was able to pivot to enjoying what I do. I think like I'm sure a lot, at least my friends that I speak to that aren't shlichus, and it's not only true for shlichus. I think in general you go through these ups and downs of like whether you're motivated, you're inspired, and you're fired up to like I can't look at an 18-year-old's kid anymore. I'm sick of these. I just remember even just 2 years ago going through these conversations with kids. Like, I don't want to talk about what you want to talk about anymore. It's just like, I'm so sick of all of the, whether it's just the vain and empty talk. Like, it's good for when I was 24 years old and I was just starting 25 years old, just starting shluchus, and I was like trying to get myself to understand their world a little bit so I could connect with them. But like, I'm 16 years into my shluchus and I'm not really interested in talking about that or getting to that. I was just like, but what I enjoy, I've learned to what I enjoy. And what I enjoy is one-on-ones with students and one-on-ones with adults. And literally everything else I've had, I don't want to say literally, but almost everything else I've handed off to other people. And I have an assistant who works with me, and that's what she knows. She knows that if it's not fundraising related, meaning if it's CRM related, and if it's a program to book or something like that, I just don't enjoy that stuff. I don't enjoy booking a bus or booking a venue. I don't enjoy, and therefore, why should I do it? I'm not. I don't enjoy spreadsheets and CRMs and mailings. So she does it all, and
So
that's what
you're
she
not one of
knows.
those.
I'm not one of those. No, some people love it, and paper shuffling is their thing. Paper shuffling is just not my thing. I just don't like organizing those lists. Put the list in front of me, tell me who to call, and I'll call. Tell me who to text, and I'll text. But I'm not. So again, to directly answer your question, what do I enjoy learning with students very much, uh, and I enjoy the I enjoy the chase a little bit when it comes to getting meetings with people. I'm talking about for donors and things like that. And that's what I spend most of my time doing.
Right. Well, and are you saying one-on-one versus like big Friday night dinners? Or are you
Yeah, I
saying
don't really
person? Okay.
enjoy the Friday night. I mean, yeah, I don't enjoy it. It feels too commercial for me. It's harder to connect with people then, but I know that that's the, point of entry. That's how I get to know the students. So if I wouldn't have Friday night dinners, I would not have any one-on-ones. But yeah, like I enjoy after the Friday night dinner when most of the people leave and I can sit around the table with 6 or 7 students and just connect and sing and fabring. That's what I enjoy. But I'm yeah, the bigger stuff are not the things that I enjoy. But
Well,
but again,
yes.
that's just that's a small thing of like I'd rather run a Friday night Shabbos dinner than mess around with my CRM. I'll tell you that.
Right.
That's something I really don't like. I recently took this, it's called Colby. It's like it's one of those many personality tests that a lot of businesses do. Um, Personally, I have, there's someone who lives and supports us that is big into it, huge. So he told me he would pay for it if me, my wife, and the assistant that we have, would take it. And one of the things that I learned from it is, here's the main nakuda. The main nakuda of this Colby thing is that things that you don't enjoy doing, you shouldn't do. Not because, like, mainly because it drains you. It takes koyach out of you. Not because you can't. Of course, I mean, Chassidus 101 is avoda, so do things that you. Avoda means work. It's not about staying away from work. It's about things that you don't enjoy. It takes up a lot more time and in headspace. So
Right.
let's just
You
imagine.
probably won't do them well also.
Right? Yeah. But that's not even that. But that's not even the nakuda. The nakuda is that, like, if I have to do things, I don't know what silly example. I don't know, tabling. I never enjoyed tabling on campus, specifically by me, because this Jewish population is so small. So, once every hour, right? It's a very large campus. Maybe once an hour, twice an hour, yeah, twice. I'll meet 2 Jews. It's like, why am I like? But I used to hate it for whatever reason. A day before, and I'm like, oh, gosh, I got to do this. It's pulling me down. Don't do it. Right? It's you. You get somebody else to do. Somebody who doesn't mind to do that. And the point is, because it tires you out, because it's taking up too much headspace. There, that's really the nakuda of it. That's why I would argue that's the purpose of these types of personality tests, is to learn what your chushim are and what your chushim are not, and try to stay away from those that are not things that are not your chush.
Hmm, interesting. It sounds like you've been thinking about this for a little time now. Have you shifted something in discovering more what are the things that are in your chush versus not?
I think my main, yeah, which are the things that I mentioned before about what I enjoy doing. That's why I liked your question, because I had to think a lot about what I enjoy doing. And what I enjoy doing are interpersonal relationships and connections with people. I think that is, what we as shluchim need to do. Well, I don't want to make a blanket statement like that. Let me take that back. That's what I need to do. That's what I need. I need to focus on because that's part of what I enjoy doing. Um, and therefore that's just one-on-ones with people. I try to set up as many chavrusas as I possibly can.
Beautiful.
By the way, and that's also how, because that's what I enjoy doing. That's also how I measure success. The age-old question: how do you measure success? If you're enjoying what you're doing and it's working, then if I have a semester where I only have, let's say, 4 chavrusas throughout the week, that's very shliach. That's not successful for me, because then I'm doing what I don't enjoy doing, and I'm not doing what I really. And I'll also argue that in the world of shluchus, there's a lot of things that we do. If you can divide it up in two very simple things: the ikar and the tuffle, right? Most of what we do, right? CRM is not part of our shlichus. Sending out newsletters and emails is not part of a shlichus. Yeah, I know someone later will come and say, no, that is actually part, because that's just a lead up. That's just a kav for what our shlichus is. Our shlichus is limited Torah with people and connecting and inspiring and motivating for Yidden to be stronger in the connection with the Eibishter, connection with the Rebbe, and that's what we're supposed to do, not sending out emails. But so I'm just saying, just from a practical standpoint, if you divide it up with that, the reality is that there is, ikar and tough, and you have to do a lot of the things that are secondary, but I don't think you should be doing that.
Right. Then the more you can hand that off, the better.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting. I never thought about it that way, but from what you're saying, it sounds like there is a strong relationship between the things you enjoy most and the things that you know are of highest of value, to you,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. Yeah, beautiful. So we're talking about all in the realm of like in the words of says your work outwardly, right? Teaching, connecting, etc. Um, in regards to yourself, the matzma, your own personal,
The pneumius.
uh, yeah, I'd say like your own personal state of being. Like what would you say um, about like what role does that play? In level of importance. Is that something that you feel is important to um, pay attention to or give priority to?
I mean, the obvious answer is 110%. Um, Obviously, that is, more important. Um, I would argue, but I think that question is, I mean, yeah, simple answer is yes. It's obviously
Okay,
extremely important and
th-
the most important. But
so when I'm sitting with the shliach a lot of times, okay, we're discussing their goals, right? And a lot of the things are measurable, right? Okay, this is how much money I'm raising. This is how much money I would like to or I would need to, right? This is from 1 to 10. What is my productivity where I would like it to be? But then sometimes I'll ask, like, if we measured your state of being in the meaning, your simcha to live of, right? You're not being bogged down by worry and stress and stuff like that. So in your state of being, if you have to measure 1 to 10, right, where would you say you were at? And a lot of times that's like a very like, oh, interesting. I never thought about it that way. And then they'll see, oh, like I'm at this, and if I could be a little higher up on that scale, it would be very good. So the Hemshech follow up to my first question about how important your own um, yourself, yeah, our own Aveda, specifically in regards to like being in a positive, healthy space. What do you say about that?
super important, and super important for me. Think about it a lot as well. I think most people do. And it is an interplay of in other words, the way how I would measure it, and when I'm feeling good, and when I'm to use your words, when things are besimcha uvetuv levav, is it's a mixture of my avodah pnimius and my avodah mzulas, because I think that's my entire state of being. Yeah, when things. The truth is, I have to include my family in that as well. Whether it's my wife and my kids and how they're doing are also a big part of it. So when things are going well with them, when things are going well with my Veda Pnimius, when things are going well with my shlichus, um, that's when things are I'm fulfilling my shlichus b'simcha v'tuv levav. When I'm not necessarily as motivated in my Aveda Pnimius, when I'm not necessarily motivated with my Aveda Mzulas, then it's just very well connected. I think it is for most
Right.
people. I don't think there's any big
Right.
chiddush there. But yeah, that's my. But it's super super important. I mean, I think most people recognize that today. I think it's one of the big differences between today's generation versus yesteryear's generation, of understanding of even just being aware that uh, happiness and contentment with your shlichus, with your life, is just super important.
Right. Yeah, beautiful. Is there anything like you do or that you focus on if you feel like you need to pick up that, you know, level?
Well, there's two things. There's the there's the easy thing, which is take on a project. I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn this mimer right now. I'm going to learn this. Finish 5 blot of Gemara. Let's say, right? That's like an easier thing. I don't want to say it's easy. It's not easy. It's a quicker fix, but I don't know if it actually really, like, temporarily it does.
Right. Okay. What you say, it gives you like motivation, excitement, something
Yeah, it
to.
motivates exactly. What else motivates me if I'm like in the it's keeping in mind also that that time is important. In other words, even understanding that just things go like this. Not everything is always going to be dandelions and sunshine. There are part of the fact of life is that sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down, and realizing I just need to give it some time. Sometimes I'll get on the phone with a friend and I'll just say, like, this last week has just been terrible. Like, no motivation, not doing anything, not feeling good about it, and so on. But I remind him, and he reminds me that, in a week we'll touch base again, and Mr. Shem will be over.
Right.
So I think time is an important aspect of it, but again, there is something that you can do practically. For me, it's just take on a small project. Just learn one sikha that I wanted to learn for a while that I've been pushing off, or something like that. And by the way, even though I don't enjoy it as much, like I mentioned before, as I do with learning with somebody else, learning with somebody else can't really pull me out of that rut, let's call it.
Interesting. Well, I heard you say a few things. One is, I don't know if you meant it, but I think you were saying is, speaking to a chaver, that itself is, healing and helpful, like not being isolated in your own head and, stuck with your own,
Yep.
dark thoughts, let's say. Um, that's one thing I heard you say. I think it's beautiful. Another thing you said, where I understood, is like being okay. Like there's like, okay, sometimes we're having a hard time, things aren't going well. And then there's like getting all down that we're down, which,
Yeah.
pushes us, further down. And really, okay, it's okay, that's part of life. There's ups and downs. I could be okay that, I'm on the down now. And I know that things are gonna pick up, That's
Yeah.
how I understood you.
In other words, even the actual hakara of right now is not good, and I don't feel good, but hopefully I'll get out of the ruts that in it. All it takes is recognition that
Right.
it's not good right now. But yeah, in terms of a chaver, I have a chaver who's on the same time zone as me, and he picks up his kids from school at the same time. And about 3, 4 times a week, while we're driving to carpool, we
Wow.
call each other.
It's beautiful.
Uh, and he's also on campus, so there's even more to share and have a common, but it's not necessarily has nothing to do with the campus thing. He's on shlichus, I'm on shlichus. We both have kids, and there's a lot to go through. Even though sometimes it's only 20 minutes because he picks up his kids 10 minutes before I do, but it's still something that I value, and I definitely have a lot of friends that I speak to often.
Yeah, beautiful. It sounds like it's so, sometimes like, the water you swim in, you don't even recognize, right? Like it sounds
Right.
like it's such a basic for you that you didn't even like recognize, like, oh, this is talking one of the things that I have. I would say, from the outside that that's probably one of the things you have that, you know, help you be in a healthy, good space. You have Daigem Levish Sifena, right? I'm speaking to others, getting
Yeah.
things out of your head.
100% that I recognize it, that it's just my group of chaverim, and I'm very blessed that I have that. I just hope that every shliach has something like that. I've spoken to my kids about it, specifically my older son. Just like that's what like. I'd love you to come out of yeshiva with friends like that. Yeah.
Wow. Well, beautiful. You mentioned it. So thanks for sharing all that. You mentioned earlier, so I'll just, you know, go there for a minute. Um, what is family life on shlichus on campus like for you?
Yeah. Definitely took a while to figure it out. There's no question about that. Not only that, but something that I remember when I was first went out, and I would go to the kinusim, and I would hear and listen to lots of workshops about the balance and shlichus, family life and shlichus life, and the exact question you're asking, and like me having no idea how to conquer that. Um, and one of the things that was always that I always heard was involve your children in your shlichus, involve your children in your shlichus. And something for me that it didn't work, meaning my kids were not, but when they were younger. Okay, so my oldest is now, 17 years old. I still do have younger kids, but they're they're not like my older kids. They would come down for kiddush. Let's say it's Friday night, kiddush and challah, and they didn't like interacting with the students. They didn't like to be. Not only that, but they would just always complain about the fact that why do we have to live on campus? Why can't we move to the Frum area? So we're like let's say there's a Lubavitch community like 20 minutes away from us. Like, why can't we just live there? And it would used to like grind on me. Like, wow, they really resent it. They didn't like it. They don't have their own space Friday night. They don't have their parents. And, as much as I tried to involve my kids, they were just not interested. And that was very hard. It did take a while for me to just accept it. Accept that this is what now Baruch Hashem things are different, where my kids do interact with the students, but they're also older, so they enjoy it more. I can't even say all my kids do. Some don't, and that's fine too. But it's just again recognizing that that's not necessarily what they are interested in, and therefore how to balance that is it's definitely hard, right? When I'm giving students my attention over Shabbos, I can't give it's hard to also give my children attention, especially on Shabbos afternoon. Let's say in the summertime now, it's they're long Shabbosim, and we'll have a few students that will hang out the whole day. And I have like now it's it. I'm going upstairs. I'm spending time with the kids. I'm playing a game with them. I'm reading them a book. It's something that has to be in the forefront, um, all the time. in my mind, because otherwise I can get just my personality. I'll just get lost in the conversation. I'll get, yeah, sure, we could learn, we can do that, and not
Right.
recognizing that I have to give time. Also, just something practically speaking, the way my Chabad house is that the main floor, the first floor is Chabad, and upstairs is where I live. The fact that students know that even the ones that keep Shabbos, that like we used to allow, like, have them come upstairs, especially so that way I don't need to entertain them. They can just sit on a couch, read a book. Stairs is not where, other than immediate family or guests or right, or friends that come over, but like that in itself was like also very, it was a space where my kids knew that this is their place. That's just a practical thing that worked for me in terms of dividing or balancing, let's call it, family and shlichus. In terms of just in general, always being aware that my children are a priority.
Hmm. Well, you're saying it's a constant effort to
It's a constant battle, constant effort and battle for me, because I just get lost in my in what I'm doing. I have to take this meeting, or I have to do this. And it took me a long time to learn that, let's say, meetings that obviously there's certain meetings that I can't, that aren't running on my calendar or on my schedule. A Sunday morning or a Sunday this, or an evening meeting. Yeah. It just took me time to realize that I need to ask my wife if it's okay before I book the meeting. Keyword there,
after
before.
after after a few
After a few
times trying the other
mistakes.
way.
Yeah.
Wow, beautiful. Um, Thanks for sharing that. So we came up a little before, but I guess I'd love to hear a little more about it. What is your journey of building support for your Ma'aseh bin in on your shlichus?
Um, Here's one of the things that I wish I knew from the beginning. There's a lot of things. I have a long list of things that I wish I knew when I was 26 years old. Um, but one of them is that everything takes time, and to a certain degree, that time is really your best friend here when it comes to support and garnering support. And yeah, you need support right away, and like everything else, it's instant gratification. And if I'm not getting it right now, then um move on. Let's go to the next, but
Right,
I think that was something that took me time to learn, and how I was able to build the support that I have, and really to continue building the support that I have, is just realizing that everything takes time, and relationships take time, people getting to know you and being comfortable with us and Chabad, and that took time. And even though it was hard at the beginning because I needed money right then and there, um, now, Baruch Hashem, where when there is money in the bank, now I can also focus on the newer, bigger people that I would like to get to know. And even though I know that last week I was sitting in a meeting with someone. Was my first time meeting him. I was kind of asking him for money, kind of not. It was just like I wasn't sure, because I was getting to. He's like, by the way, I recognize that it took you 6 months to get this meeting. I said, seriously, like, you recognize that? Thank you for recognizing. Most people don't even realize that, or they do realize, but they don't. He actually said, I recognize that it took you 6 months
wow,
get this meeting, and everything takes time, because in that meeting he was promising me, to introduce me to 6 other people. So after he said that, I said, so when do I need to wait another 6 months to get that meeting? And he said, probably. In other words,
right,
he was being, and I said,
honest,
okay, fine. I know that, and I'm okay with that now that I know that, but it's also the reality,
right,
especially when we're talking about people, that a lot of people, that are generally generous and philanthropic, and it's it takes time. So how again, it's hard to answer the question directly. The first thing that comes to mind is that it takes time.
Hmm.
It takes time
Wow.
to build the relationships with people. Not only that, but especially when we're talking about people that I'm going to other people to introduce me to. Can you introduce people that, let's say, are supporters of ours? I'm asking them to introduce me to so and so. That in itself can take a month and a half for that person to actually, you know what? I'm going out for dinner with them in 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, I'll talk to them about you and whether or not they'd be interested. And guess what? 9 times out, so I put it on my calendar in 3 weeks. I completely forgot. You know what? I'll give them a call next week. Follow up, right? But if you have the time and you recognize that it takes time and you're persistent about it and consistent about it, I think that's I think that's that's the trick. Or I shouldn't say that's my trick, and that's
Right.
what worked for me in terms
Wow.
of recognizing that these things take a lot of time, especially with donors that are giving on larger scales.
Hmm. Do you have any stories that demonstrate like this the kuda of being patient, staying in the process?
Um, nothing nothing that's out of the ordinary. Yeah, just people that gave me $1,800 and started with $1,800 and just thanked them and stayed consistent with them. And I knew that they had capacity for much more. And it came to them with this project and people that maybe 10 years that I have a relationship with them that it took for me to get something significant. And I still have people that, are giving me $5,000 and I know that I have capacity for so much more. And I've closed I just it's in the back of my mind. So no, I don't have a specific story, just reiterating the same point that persistency is another thing. There's last year there was a guy that I've been trying to meet for a long time, sending him an email and getting ignored, and sending a text message and getting ignored. Finally I get the meeting on the calendar. The first thing he said to me, and it was like almost a light bulb for me. He said, "Thank you for your persistence." I never met him. I was like, wow. I said to myself, I just want you to know I really appreciate that, because I don't know if I'm being a nudge. And by the way, I use that now. I use that now a lot of times when I'm trying to get meetings with people and they're ignoring me or they're not responding to me and this and that. And I'll say to them, I don't know if I'm just being persistent or a nudge. Can you tell me?
And do you get a response to that?
Most people don't answer the question, to be honest. They'll just gets to the point of especially in an email. They'll just respond, hopefully, or not.
Yeah. Right. Wow. So you said before that this is something you wished. Someone told you earlier, like what was
I
the
wish I would have known that time is my best friend in this in the world of fundraising, in the world of shlichus in general.
what would it have given you or saved you if you would have known that earlier?
Good question. I think lots of people that I got frustrated with and you know didn't pursue or didn't go after because it's like, okay, you're not interested. Like let me
Right.
let me figure out. I have this one guy who is in sales. He is actually a financial advisor. I'm not sure why, but he did a lot of sales in the beginning. And one of the, and every time I meet him, I do this with everyone I meet. Give me a tip. Tell me something that I could learn from you. And I always tell people, listen, I think I'm in sales. You're in sales. Some people sell vacuum cleaners. Some people sell cars. I sell Yiddishkeit, right? So I am in sales. What's something that I could learn? And this guy told me, he's like, I learned early on that I need to differentiate between cherries and pits. And people that
Yeah.
are pits, I shouldn't waste my time with. Now, can't really work so well when it comes to shlichus because every yid is a yid, and you don't. But at the same time, we only have a certain amount of time. We only have a certain amount of
You're saying
headspace.
in your fundraising efforts, who to focus
Yeah,
your time
you
on.
want
Okay.
to identify who the pits are, so you're not going after people that are never going to give you money. So I try to do that. I really, really tried to figure out early on. Now, back then, I think I was throwing out people a lot quicker because
Throwing out the
they're just
cherries.
a pit. And I didn't realize that it just took time, that it just takes time. Um, and then also, what else would it would have motivated me more. I think I was just getting a lot more um, dissuaded
Right.
and because I
Frustrated.
was okay, like, but if I understood that earlier, it wouldn't have motivated. It wouldn't have. It would also just save me time, by the way, because you're doing no, realize that you got to touch base in a month from now, in 3 months from now. It's okay.
Meaning what? Is it?
It would have saved me my own time, is because I'm spending a lot of time figuring out how to get a hold of that person or which avenue. And if I would just know that it's
Oh,
going to take
follow
time,
up. Right.
yeah,
Right. Hmm. Saying it, understanding that it's a good thing to follow up, and it's not being annoyed just
I
because you
think
didn't get
that
through
just because the
first
guy
time.
didn't respond to you now, it doesn't mean he's not interested. That's the nakud. He's busy. He doesn't really know who you are. You don't have a relation. If it was somebody that's been giving me money for 10 years and I have a relationship with him and he texts me when he needs something and I text him when I need something and the guy's not responding for a month, okay, fine. Like, that's a problem. But if a guy doesn't know me and I'm just trying to get that meeting with him, and just because he doesn't respond and he doesn't and he ignores my texts and my emails, it doesn't mean that he's not going to give you money. Now, it could also mean that it isn't, and that's why I like to I ask people for clarity. Are you not interested? I say sometimes people have a hard time telling me no. So, or sometimes there's just too much on their plate. Can you clarify with me which one it is?
Hmm. Interesting.
I'm asking them. Some people will say, "Yeah, I'm really not interested."
Hmm.
Some people say,
Interesting.
and then some people just continue to ignore.
Right. Right. Wow. Is that interesting? You mentioned, just on this topic for a minute, um, about people introducing you to other people, like being a shlichus on campus. Like, what are your main? I know it's not one, but what are your main avenues of like where to look for support?
So every campus is different. I find that most shluchim on campus are pursuing parents. For me, that never really worked. Yeah, I get money from parents. I fundraise, I send mailings and things like that, but that's not really where I put my time and my effort. My time and effort is in the community, in the Minneapolis St. Paul Jewish community.
Are they
So
are they like the alumni of this
some are alumni,
university?
some are not alumni. They recognize that supporting, Jewish life
Interesting.
in their town is important. So the same way they give money to the federation, and the same way they give money to whatever Jewish organization, they want to support Jewish life on campus. That's where I have seen my. Now I know that's not shaykh for every shliach, um, for maybe reasons that are beyond the scope of this discussion. Therefore, it cannot be a klal gadol. I'm just telling you my situation of what if I had to only raise money from parents and grandparents, that would be a big struggle. I'm on a state school. I'm in a state school, and being in a state school is just like lot of reasons why parents are sending to state schools is because they don't have the funds to send out of state. It's a lot more expensive. Now, again, there are certain state schools that probably do work with fundraising from parents, just not in my situation.
Well, beautiful. And regarding what you said earlier about introduction, is that something that has has led you to meet supporters or new people?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say almost everyone that almost everyone that I had. There are very few, let's say, wealthy people in the community, in the Twin Cities Jewish community, that I have met because their child or grandchild was a student, which means I've had to have somebody introduce me somehow. By the way, just something that I used to do is anytime when I would finish a meeting, I would do the obvious and easy thing, which is there anybody else that you can introduce me to? And after a year of doing that, I realized that doesn't work. Most people, I'll think about it and I'll let you know.
So
Um,
how do you do it?
so what I've recently started doing is I've recently started coming to them with a list of names. First of all, I would do that, just because it's easier, right? Is there anyone that do you have a good friend? Do you have a fraternity mate, a classmate, this, that type of thing? But again, 9 times out of 10, I don't get a response because they don't want to, right? Or they go blank, this is the
Right.
thing
It's a
somebody will
very,
call
very
you up
wide question, very broad
too
question.
wide. Now what I do is I come to them with 5 or 6 names, not more, 5 or 6 names, and I say, "Is there anyone on this list that you know?" That you know, and not only that, but then I'll say, would you feel comfortable making an introduction? Now, if there's someone that you don't know well, is somewhat of my circle. Is there anyone in my circles that you know of that knows this person? Right? You understand what I'm saying?
Again, you're speaking to the donor and you're
I'm
saying,
speaking to a donor and I'm saying, okay, is there anyone on this list that you know that you would feel comfortable introducing me to? So let's say they say, I know this person a little bit. I'm not so comfortable making the introduction, but
okay,
I know that Howard gives you money. Howard is a supporter of yours, and Howard is his best friend.
interesting.
Reach out to Howard and ask Howard to introduce. But I
Hmm.
don't like. But
You didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Interesting. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
But coming with a list was what was key,
But
game
yeah, and
changer.
you found that to be much more
It's
effective.
just so much more productive, even if it gives me one person.
Oh, beautiful. We sort of went on a tangent. You were sharing before the things that you wish someone told you when you started out. Is there anything else on that list?
So far I met. I think the only thing I mentioned was time is your best
Pa-
friend.
Patience and persistence.
Yeah. I would also say something that the Rebbe told my head shliach, Rabbi Moshe Feller, is a key in shlichus in general. Which I think it was his yichidus he had right before he left to Minnesota. The Rebbe told him to be flexible. I don't think I've actually ever asked Rabbi Feller what he interpreted that to be. Because that's a very broad statement in itself. I'm guessing just the way I interpret it is that shlichus is not one thing. Let's just take campus shluchim, right? If you're a campus shliach, you have to have a big Friday night dinner. And if you don't have a big Friday night dinner, are you even a campus shliach, right? And then the answer is absolutely. Like, you have to have a lunch and learn, or you have to have a pizza and barsha. Again, it took me a good 5 years to figure that out. I wish I knew that at the beginning. I wish I knew at the beginning there's no... Now, I would say that there is a certain mila of campus shlichus that your shlichus is somewhat defined. I mean, first of all, your demographic is for sure defined. Where a community shliach, should I focus on kids? Should I focus on community? Should I focus on teens? What should I focus on? So that in itself is a mila. And not only that, but another mile is, let's say I decide that I'm going to focus on teens. How should I get the teens? Should I focus on going to the high school? Should I focus on Shabbos dinner? Whatever. So there's a mile of campuses where it is very defined, but also know that that's not the definition. Don't create the box and then create a box for yourself and stay in that box. Recognize that we created that box, meaning we as Chabad on campus or shluchim on campus and so on. But that doesn't mean you can step outside that box. And a Friday night dinners, let's imagine you're a shliach is on a campus that's a commuter school. So there's no students around Friday night. Does that mean he's not a campus shliach? Of course not, right? Or if birthright doesn't work for you, are you still a shliach? Of course you are, right? If this program doesn't, I think the concept of flexibility. I wish again, I heard it probably from Rabbi Feller earlier on, but it took me 5 years to figure out what that actually means. So I wish I knew the concept of being flexible.
So when you started, you felt like you had to do all the boxes that everybody was doing. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. Mm, but again, it's not necessarily also feeling like I have to do certain things. It was like this is the only way to do it. I think that's it. If I don't do a pizza and parsha, then I'm not going to then I'm not going to connect with students, or I'm not going to be able to build a meisid, or I'm not going to be able to. There is no such thing. Do what works for your campus. Do what works for you. Do what works for your shlichus. I think that's, again, for me, it's also personal, because I feel like, if the Rebbe said it to my head shliach, then it pertains to me as well. But obviously, it's not only to me; it's to everyone.
Does this relate to the beginning of our conversation about like doing the things that you have the most joy and is that related to that or not connected?
I think no, that's more that's more connected to another nakuda I wish I would have known, which is the concept of delegating. One day I'm going to write a book, and there's different chapters. One of them is about time. The other one is about flexibility, and one of them is about just delegating. Delegate, like, and I think that's what it's connected to. Again, going back to this, setting up the Friday night table myself. I don't know why I hated it. Putting out the forks and setting up the tables and putting on the thing. My kids were still too young to help at that point, right? And I was just like, why am I? That's what the Kudin is connected to. Anything and everything you don't enjoy doing, you delegate to somebody else. And again, not because you can't do it, but because of the headspace. I remember the first time I was hiring this person that I have working for me. I called another shliach who was very big into hiring and delegating, and he was telling me all the things he has his assistant doing, because I was worried, like, what am I going to have this person do? Right. And one of the things he said to me was payables and receivables, like payables. I'm like, payables. Like, what are payables already? Like, obviously there's all these bills. Like, I'm talking about gas, electric, this and that. I'm like, that takes me 20 minutes to do at the end of every month. I go onto the computer, go into bill pay. Like, what am I don't need somebody to do that for me. He's like, it's not about the 20 minutes. It's about, this is not in
Mm,
your,
on your
you
head.
don't have to worry about that. So the 20 minutes that it takes, it gives you time to think about, what else do I need to do to grow my shlichus? Like, I hate writing long emails. I hate reading long emails. People send me can you read it for me? Now, today you have ChatGPT that can do it for you. AI
I
can do
think
that
even
for you.
Gmail started doing where like
They
it
started right. They
summarized.
started doing it. Okay, fine. I still wouldn't like, but I don't. I'm talking. It's not even about the length of it. It's about like the intricacy. You have to do this. You got to do it and respond for me. Right. My assistant responds to these types of emails for me, scheduling back and forth of actually getting getting it on the calendar. So I think delegating is something that like. People think that they need to be like, they have to have a massive meisid in order to delegate. And I think,
When you say delegate, you mean hire someone that's going to do
yeah,
all of these things. Okay.
yeah,
So was that your obstacle? You felt like, oh, I don't have a big enough organization to bring in.
it was twofold. It's not big enough, and I don't have the money for it.
Okay.
I don't
So
have the money.
what was the answer to those two questions?
I just took so I got lucky where the assistant who works for me, first of all, she's an alum. She's a balas tshuva of ours and an alumnus, so she was very involved in the meisid. She knew, she was like the student president when she was when she was student. But that's not necessarily the key to it. The key is that she was willing to start on an hourly basis. So for me, that worked well. Like I didn't have to take on a salary right away. So I had to pay her $25 an hour. Fine. And not only that, but if I feel like it's getting too much, I can stop. So I think I got loved off. Could everybody do it that way? Unless you start with, let's say, I saw that you had Yosef
Romano.
Roman, Romano on. So I didn't listen to that podcast yet. It's not an idea for me because, but I should still listen to it. I guess my point is, I guess you can start with that, and
Like virtual
then
assistant.
yeah, that yeah. But by the way, the girl who works for me, a woman who works, she's also virtual, even though she lives in the Twin Cities. She doesn't sit in my office. She sits at
Okay.
home, and but that's just the details. So technically, she's also virtual, although we do meet in person when we need to. But I'm talking about just yeah. Anybody could start with an assistant like that, and just hand everything and anything off that you can't do or don't enjoy doing. I shouldn't say can't do that you don't enjoy doing, and just the concept of delegating. Like right now, if I go to a shliach's Chabad house and I see them doing things, obviously I don't say anything, but in my mind it's like, what are you doing? Why are you setting up Shabbos morning or
Hmm.
cleaning up Friday night
Right. So,
or
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So this woman that you have is taking care of things that could be taken care of virtually, but it sounds like you have people that are doing the on the ground stuff that need to be done.
Yeah, we have there's somebody who Friday, dish. You're saying like actual help.
Right.
Um,
Set up, clean up, all this stuff.
yeah, set up and clean up on the cheshmei.
Right. Is there any other physical activities to be delegated or
Physical. There's nothing else physical other than like help. Al-Asar is, yeah, just set up, clean up, cooking, a lot of helping with cooking and things. But again, I don't think that that's a major chiddush. I would hope
right.
that
All right.
95% I would think that 95% of shluchim have that taken care of. Again, maybe not yesteryear shluchim, but today's shluchim, I feel like most have that. So I don't think we need to focus on that.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Is there any other chapters in your book?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I think about, I wish I knew at 25 years old that I should put some money away for later. I wish I was taught the concept. And I don't want to use the word investing because that's that's going to be for everyone to discuss with their mashpia. So it doesn't have to be. I'm not talking about the market per se, but something. Just looking today around at some of the senior shluchim, the concept didn't exist then, and didn't exist for me when I was 26 years old either. But I wish somebody would have told me that one day it's going to be hard to raise money, and you have to be able to put away for later.
Saying harder
Um,
because you're saying when you're older, is that what you mean?
yeah. When I'm older, and simchas come or things like now. The first thing that 25 my 25-year-old self would have said is, but I barely have enough money to put food on
Right.
my table now.
Right.
Well, it doesn't make a difference. Train yourself. If you can put away $50 a month away now, even if you can't, put it away. Train yourself because you'll watch it. You'll watch what happens when every, month after month and year after year,
Right. It's like a
what
mindset
happens
shift.
to money and how important it is it's so I started later in life, but if I would have started at 25 years old or even earlier, again, it's not about the amount of money. It's about to do it. I wish somebody would have taught me that concept much earlier on. I think that it's very important and I don't know. I don't know why. Even in the college world, in the business world, I ask people, kids that go to business school, it's certain kids, savvy kids, they do it themselves. But like, it's not even something that's taught, and I don't understand why.
Interesting.
Start putting away money for the future.
I'm curious. In what do you find? when you share this with, other shluchim your age or older or younger, like what is the kinds of responses?
They don't understand they don't understand, first of all, how it works or why to do it, or I don't think it was just ever for many. I think slowly, things are becoming a lot more, whether it's, social media, even Beinenu, like people are learning these type of things, but definitely not when I went on show. So just in terms of what do I find, I guess, yeah, sure. Some people are like, yeah, okay. And so, somebody will tell us, call Yitzi Steiner. He's like, as if I'm like this. No, I don't have any major secrets, by the way. Zero major secrets.
Financial guru of the shlichus world.
Zero. None of that. Other than just put it away. Start doing it and do it younger. The younger, the better.
Right. I feel like you're what I'm saying is like it's a mindset shift of like, oh, I'm not in a place to preside. Like you could be in your whole life, like I'm not in a place, or you could be like, I may have barely just enough, but I could put aside $2 or whatever it is, and then just
Yeah.
that shift, like
But and part of the thing is that when you are organized in that sense, you will be able to it's just automatically you're going to see the impact it is. It's going to motivate you to raise more money also,
interesting.
because you're watching that account grow and grow from month after month, year after year. And not only that is going to motivate, it's going to motivate you to add. If I just add $50 more a month, you know how much more that's going to, and then you can calculate that up throughout the years.
Right. Like you said, it's probably a good message for shluchim and non-shluchim.
Yeah.
Like, nice, nice one. So, before we wrap it up, any final thoughts you'd like to share with us? Any shliach that might be listening?
The last thing, I don't know, another chapter of my book, which I think is very obvious, but nevertheless, even obvious things to be stated, is you got to help other shluchim. If you are in a position to help other shluchim, you got to help. Whether it's time, whether it's practically, whether it's with money, whatever it is that, number one, I see the brachas with it, but it's not that's not the reason. It's just you gotta help another shliach out. Especially, and everyone is in a position somehow in some way. But especially if you're able to help, give, lend, time. It's important.
Have you, let's say in your earlier years when things maybe were more challenging, was there someone that was that for you?
No. In other words, no, it didn't come out of some inspiration where somebody did it for me, and no, it was just
Beautiful. All right. So thank you so much, JC. I guess we got a preview into your book.
there's a lot more chapters. This is just a preview.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Just a taste. Thank you for sharing, and Bezos Show will be helpful to many people and shluchim to listen. Yeah, and keep up the great work.
Absolutely. Hatzlacha Rabbah.
Thank you.